Broadcasting live on the UnitedWest.org AM radio network and simulcasting on DirecTV, iHeartRadio, Roku, and the World Wide Web, this is Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
And subbing for Tom Trento today is not Geert Wilders. He's not subbing for us today. Subbing for Tom Trento today is Damon Rosen. I am Damon Rosen. Hi, everybody. I shaved. I gained a little bit of weight. Cut my hair. And I like doing this so much that I hope Trento never comes back. Let him stay wherever secret mission he's on somewhere in the world. The radio people are going, that doesn't sound like Damon, Mark Levine, Rosen. We were watching your show the other day, Damon, Mark, and I, while we were someplace else. And Mark goes, hey, he's got that Mark Campbell says, hey, he's got that Mark Levine thing going on there. And you did. You did a great job, Damon.
Thanks, T-Man.
Very, very good. Held the fort down for 2 days. Mike on the super-duper nuclear-powered. Oh, yes, you didn't know. We have a plutonium-powered TriCaster.
Good thing it's not uranium-powered because the Clintons sold all the uranium to the Russians.
And we can't get it, but we can get our hands on plutonium-powered electrical equipment here to run it. That's just for medical purposes and research purposes, that's all.
What's up with the warhead factory downstairs?
The warhead factory?
That has anything to do with your plutonium?
Oh, down in our basement. Okay, I see. Oh, but the Iranians are just wonderful, wonderful people. But today's show, we got two fabulous components for our show. Big idea, free speech. Die for free speech. Work and fight for free speech. Speak for free speech. And if it were up to, how many representatives in Congress? We have
435 congressmen and 100 senators.
435 on the House side. Those are the 2-year elected officials. And the 6-year elected officials are the senators, total of 535. Well, if it were up to two of the elected officials, both congressmen, one from Indiana. There we have Ellison from Minnesota. Put Ellison back up. If we're up to this guy, Keith Ellison, U.S. Congressman, and if we happen to have Andre Carson from the formerly great state of Indiana right there, Andre Carson. If it was up to these two elected individuals who happen to be members of the religion of peace, Muslims, members of Islam, if we're up to them, they would ban, do you hear what I'm saying? They would ban Dutch parliamentarian Geert Wilders, that gentleman right there on your screen for the radio audience. Tom Trento, your host, 9 minutes after, WSBR Radio, 1470 AM. Good to be back. Wednesday, 29 April. J. Mark Campbell and I were away on a little expedition.
So this is Tom Trento back.
It is. I am back here.
Okay, you confused me. I thought you were me for a minute.
At the controls. And two components to our show today. Second component, in the second part of the show, will be on this absurd letter that two congressmen wrote to Secretary of State Kerry and the head of DHS, Homeland Security, Jay Johnson. Keith Ellison and Andre Carson wrote a letter asking to ban Dutch parliamentarian from the Netherlands, elected official from the Netherlands, Geert Wilders, ban him from coming into the United States today to address members of the U.S. Congress. Can you believe that? Shariah, Shariah, Shariah. This is, if you ever wanted to see Shariah personified, if you ever want to know why the United West exists, if you ever want to know why Center for Security Policy exists, if you ever want to know why Robert Spencer, who was our guest on yesterday's show, great interview, Damon, with our good friend Bob Spencer. If you ever want to know why Pamela Geller, you ever want to know why Act for America, you ever want to know why Steve Emerson, you ever want to know why David Horowitz, you ever want to know why all the donors that support this work, you have it epitomized in the letter that we're going to go through in the second part of the show congressmen trying to ban someone who's a critic of Islam, trying to ban him from coming into the United States of America. Free speech for Muslim supremacists like these two elected officials does not ring loudly in the nation's capital. They want to suppress the speech under some BS, some bull, beep, Agozi.
Hey, I need my Agozi machine.
You had Agozi yesterday. Good interview with our dear friend. They want to suppress the free speech of Geert Wilders as opposed to letting him. Well, we're going to deconstruct the letter to Secretary Kerry, and we're going to deconstruct we're going to answer it with Andy Bostom's excellent analysis. I'll go through that. That's in the second part of our show. First part of our show, we got something a little bit comical, to say the least, on a very important topic. Where we were was a little smoky the other day. Those airplane rides.
We're in Baltimore?
Not far from there. I've flown, way over 1 million miles in my life, and probably on the flight home yesterday, worst flight of my life in a commercial plane. In private planes, I've had worse flights, but in a commercial plane, probably the worst flight of my life yesterday. And when we landed, it was just turbulence coming into Florida. Planes bound, big A319 Airbus coming into Florida. I got a little concerned at one point, but I believe in the existence of God, as you'll see in our first segment. And when we landed, everybody started clapping. Walking out, I thanked the pilot. I said, "Hey, good job, guys." And the pilot said to me, "Hey, we made it, didn't we?" Like asking me the question for my approval of him making it. He actually came on during the course of bouncing for 40 minutes. I mean, bouncing badly, where people could fly out if they weren't tied down. He said, "We can't get out of this." He said, "Our radar is showing one thing, and we're in touch with the airport and this, and then we just got to weather it out." No pun intended. And we did. But thank God, I believe in the existence of God, and I know my destiny, thank God. Not the same for some rabbis that I deal with, in particular this rabbi right here, Barry Silver. Now, truth be told, I know Barry for about 25 years. We fought on many issues years ago. He is to the left of the left of the left. He's a Jewish rabbi, but we've developed this very bizarre
That's
friendship.
debatable.
I know. We've developed this very bizarre friendship because he's schizophrenic. He's philosophically and existentially schizophrenic. I don't hold that against my dear friend Barry, but he is pro-Israel, and he's a Zionist, and he's a counter-jihadist wanting to fight Islamic jihad. He doesn't hate Muslims, neither do I hate Muslims. We seriously critique the system of Islam. We have joined together on that to do quite a few presentations fighting the jihad battle, but he asked me to debate him on the existence of God, and I said, "Barry, I'm debating a rabbi on the existence of God. Do you really want to do this publicly?"
That's Meshuggah.
It's Meshuggah, for sure. I said, "I'm an evangelical Christian. I obviously believe in the existence of God, otherwise I wouldn't be what I am. You're a Jewish rabbi. You would think you would obviously believe in the existence of God." And, I
don't understand what you're saying, Tom.
Oh, you know what? I don't have
Are
that.
you saying it's a rabbi argued against you about there being a God?
You got to send me, yes, I'm saying that.
That's Meshuggah.
You got to send me that letter from Shani, what's her name?
Hi, Shani McManus.
Well, do I detect a Scottish or Irish or
Hey, top of the morning to you, Trento. It's Shani McManus.
Can you send me that letter? I want to go through that letter. Here's what we're doing today, folks.
The Sun-Sentinel article?
Yeah. On WSBR 740, on WHFS 1010, and I know that now, even though the time clock is blocking those letters on my monitor, but that's okay, no big deal. I'm a professional, ladies and gentlemen. I can handle all of the difficulties, even Mark swears that when you fly in these planes, you catch whatever goo is flying around. I don't believe that, but maybe it's true. I'm catching something here. In any event,
a flying germ tube, Tom.
Yeah, Those early morning cigars probably don't help the situation. But what we're going to do, two components to today's show. We're going to deal with free speech, Geert Wilders speaking to the United States Congress section, a small group, later on today. Then he'll be in, as you know, he'll be in Garland, Texas on Sunday. We will be there trying to cover that event, covering that event. It should be interesting. More on that tomorrow and Friday. But the first part of our show is on this very unique debate I had with a rabbi. And he asked me to debate him on the existence of God, Rabbi Barry Silver. And an article came out in today's Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel. We just have to show it to you because it's typical of the mainstream media. And the Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel is a mainstream media. It's a Chicago Tribune publication. Big stuff, big stuff. They own, I believe they own the Jewish Journal here in South Florida. And Shani McManus, who writes for the Jewish Journal on religion.
Wait a second. Are you saying that someone named Shani McManus writes for the Jewish Journal?
Go figure. Go figure that out.
That's Meshuggah too.
But she wrote an article where I have an evolution through a series of conversions in the shortness of her, 600-word article. But I want to draw attention to the sloppy writing of Shani McManus, whatever her name is. I think it's that. Let's put her picture up. Can you read a little bit about Miss McManus and her stellar career, who can't seem to get right any of the facts of a simple little debate? But let's see.
I don't let facts get in the way of nothing.
Okay, let's see.
Shani McManus is an award-winning reporter whose career spanned 40 years, both in print and broadcast journalism, because they didn't have broadcast when she started. Currently senior staff writer with the Jewish Journal, Shani began her journalism career in '69 at the venerable East Side News on the Lower East Side of New York.
All right, so that's her background. Now let's take a look at the letter she sent to me as soon as I get it here. You would think I would have had it in here, but why make things easy when you have an iPad in front of you? All right, we can show the letter. And what I'm going to do right now, the big idea for the first part of our show is that whenever you read, I'm already getting emails from people who read this saying, what the heck is going on?
You converted.
Yeah, I've converted several times.
Twice.
Whenever you read stuff from these mainstream media, any source, before you buy it as 100% factual, you need to kind of check it out a little bit. So we saw this, and I started laughing as soon as I saw it. Goes on to say, the question of whether or not there's a God was a subject of a recent debate at the Vizcaya Clubhouse in a little town in Florida called Delray Beach. We traveled to that to go to this event. The debaters were Rabbi Barry Silver and Republican conservative Tom Trento. She's got to put in Republican conservative. Now, it wasn't a political event, and it wasn't on my political philosophy event, conservative. It was a theological debate on whether or not God existed. But Shani McPherson, or whatever her name is, what is her name?
Shani McManus.
Shani McManus. In fact, we'll do this, because I think you got her down pretty well. If I want to say her name, I'll say. So the author,
Shani McManus,
said in this article, paragraph 3, Trento, a devout, practicing Roman Catholic. Okay? Now, I'm Italian, and I know a lot of Italian people are Roman Catholic.
Hey, we're all freaking Roman Catholic.
That's it. I am not a Roman Catholic. A Roman Catholic is a particular denomination within the Christian world. I happen to be on the Protestant side. I've protested against some of the Roman Catholic practices back years ago. And when I became a born-again Christian, I felt more comfortable in the Protestant side of Christianity than in the Catholic side. I have many, many dear friends and family members in the Catholic side. But factually, I'm not a devout, practicing Roman Catholic.
Are you a freaking apostate?
I'm an apostate from Catholicism, I guess. A well-known political activist, okay? So within 2 paragraphs, I'm a conservative Republican political activist.
A Catholic one.
And Barry Silver is a Jewish rabbi.
That doesn't believe in God.
Right. Now, Silver, a public interest attorney, not a left-wing nutso attorney that represents dogs and Santa Claus, which he has done.
And Santa Claus?
He represented Santa Claus.
I did not. I knew he represented dogs. Or a dog, whatever it was.
Hey, I like Santa. Don't screw with Santa. He wants to represent him. He's also offered to represent us at times. So he's at Congregation Lador Vador in Boynton Greek. Supportive of, can you read that while I cough a little bit?
Yes.
Supportive of progressive ideals.
Supportive of progressive ideals on most issues and is a strong supporter of Israel. Silver has his own unique idea of God.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the key point in understanding God. Not that we have an obligation to understand who God is, but God has to understand that we have our own unique view of who he is. Imagine if you did that with your boss wherever you're working today. Mary, I'd like you to go do this. Well, I have a unique view of you, sir, and it doesn't include me going to the printer and making copies right now. I'm just sorry, that's not how this works. But this rabbi has his own unique view. According to
Shani McManus.
Right. Trento took the perspective of an Orthodox rabbi and argued, not only does God exist, but the description of God in the Torah is literally true. Yes, that was my position. Silver responded that there certainly is a creative power. Now we're getting mystical. Somewhere in the universe, and many people call this God, but the Torah's description. Now here's where the rabbi goes off the friggin' rabbi rails into, I don't know where he's going, but listen to this. Rabbi responded, certainly creative power, many people go, but the Torah's description, the first 5 books by Moses of the Bible, is very different from our understanding. Moses didn't quite get it right back then, which has dramatically improved. I, Barry Silver, have improved upon Moses' understanding of science, and the world is constantly evolving. Trento told the audience that they, Jews, were chosen by God, and every word of their Torah is true and inerrant. I don't think I use those terms there, true and inerrant. Those are very technical terms, and I certainly believe that, but I don't think I used those that evening. Nevertheless, instead of me telling you what this looked like, production team, are we able to show them what we're talking about?
Yeah, I could probably do that for you.
Let's show a little bit of my opening, then we'll show a little bit of Barry and a little bit of my close, and then we'll make a couple of points, and I think you're going to enjoy this.
Let me get it to the right spot here.
I think you're going to enjoy it.
It's a little sensitive.
Good to be back here at the control room here. At 23 minutes after the hour, Tom Trento. Here we go. Oh, guy needs a haircut. Here we go. A little volume.
Terrorism investigative organization. With me tonight is the director of our communications, Mark Campbell, on the video. I have a daily radio show on 7:40 a.m. Goes on at 4 o'clock on the dial, 7:40 a.m. WSVR on national security issues. You can listen every single day, and it's an internet television show. And I'm not here tonight, though, to discuss national security. I'm not here to discuss the issues going on in Iran. I'm not here to discuss Jesus. I'm not here to discuss evolution. I'm not here to discuss abortion. I'm not here to discuss Islam. And I'm certainly not here tonight to discuss global warming. Though something tells me with my good friend Barry, we'll get on the issue of global warming some way or shape or form. I am here to discuss one issue, one question, the singularity of, does God exist? In fact, if you will, look at that curtain behind me. I'm going to put the hypothesis up there. Does God exist? I'm arguing yes. My friend Barry's arguing no. Unless he's changed his mind since the last time we organized this. Barry is a rabbi, capital R. I am coming to you this evening also as a rabbi with a little r. If you go to the Oxford English Dictionary, one of the definitions for rabbi is a teacher. I'm coming as a teacher to try to share a little bit of what I've learned with you, to persuade you. My job is to persuade you that indeed God exists. I am not, very, very important, I'm an evangelical Christian. I am not going to argue as an evangelical Christian. I am going to argue tonight as a Jew.
Mazel tov, Tom.
I'm going to take the position of Orthodox Judaism, holding to the belief in God. I understand it to some extent. I think sufficiently enough to communicate it effectively.
Okay.
In fact,
All right, that's a good introduction to the way it started. This is almost a 2-hour debate. It's really a fascinating debate. You can go online and look Trento versus Rabbi Barry Silver on YouTube. Watch the debate.
Yeah.
You should.
Does God exist?
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Does God exist? Tom Trento versus Rabbi Silver.
Okay. You can go there and look it up. That's a little bit of my introduction. Let's go a little bit of Barry Silver. Tell me when you have that queued up. So you a little bit, then we'll get back to the letter. And I was going to call Shani McManus.
Hi, Shani McManus. How are you, darling? Top of the morning to you.
I was going to call her on the air and screw with her a little bit about how the heck did I go from, as you'll see when we get into the letter. But, yeah, we got more important fish to fry.
Ready?
All right, here we go. Let's show Barry Silver. A little bit of Barry Silver now.
What a wonderful opening, and I'm always thrilled to listen to Tom, and I hope we get a chance to do this again, because I was preparing and I realized, even though you've given us generously of your time, there's still so much to say. But let me try to respond to some of what Tom said and also offer some thoughts of my own. First of all, it's really not fair, this whole debate. It's 2 against 1, because Tom has God on his side,
Oh, he's so funny.
and I'm arguing all by myself. In fact, God was very perplexed the other day. He was complaining to one of the angels. He said, "I'm in love with an atheist. She doesn't even know I exist."
He's a comedian.
Tom is correct when he says that I don't believe in God if you're limiting your concept of God to the God described in the Bible. If you're limiting your definition of God to that type of God, I don't believe in the God of the Bible. I believe that's mythology. I believe I'm in good company with people like Jefferson and Thomas Paine and Einstein and pretty much anybody who ever put a little bit of thought to the question from a rational point of view. I think people conclude that that God is a God of...
All right, look, well, if you're a Jewish rabbi, I think you should be more in line with maybe Moses than Thomas Jefferson, maybe Abraham than Richard Dawkins, maybe, I don't know, Isaac, Jacob, maybe some of these people.
Maybe Sammy Davis Jr.
Even Sammy Davis Jr. than Carl Sagan. So this is how Barry argues here. But the gist of our first segment here is the sloppy writing of Shani McManus. Because when you go into the now, what am I? What was I in the beginning of this piece?
You're a rabbi with a literal, Tom.
Okay, but what was my official position, theological position, according to Shani McManus?
Oh, that you're a Roman Catholic?
I was a devout, practicing Roman Catholic. When you read through the letter, she says that Tom Trento, where is it in here? Where I converted. Where is that in this? She said, I converted to Mr. Trento. The debate on the very controversial subject was enlightening, especially from the perspective that Tom Trento, an Episcopalian, represents himself as a Orthodox rabbi. He said,
Wait a second, Tom.
Wait. That's from Dr. Abe Fenster. He thought I was an Episcopalian. So we were all over the place. That wasn't Shani McManus writing that. But one interesting quote that I put together, they asked for some quotes, and I sent this tongue-in-cheek, and they put it in the article like it's part of the debate. When Barry was saying all this stuff about creation, evolution, and all this, I said, I quoted, I said, I may have to rethink my belief in God. This is a sarcastic comment on my part. When a Jewish rabbi argues against the existence of the God of the Jewish Bible, and the rabbi is not immediately struck down with an Old Testament lightning bolt, and maybe, just maybe, the rabbi's right. God doesn't exist. That was tongue-in-cheek, but somehow found its way into there. Let's conclude this section with my short conclusion on the debate. And I hope it's enough to interest you in going and looking, because as we deal with Israel, as we deal with the world coming against Jews all over the place, I think it's going to be critically important for Jewish people to discover or rediscover their critically important faith in a very personal God of the Torah. And my closing remarks are designed to stimulate some of that search by some Jews who maybe aren't quite there. Take a look.
Hey, this was very informative, enjoyable evening, always with Barry. Don't lose sight of the importance of that hypothesis
more audio.
that's up there. Does God exist? Because not only does it guide every minute of every day, and not only for you as an individual, and everybody stands alone before God, but also for your family, your loved ones, your friends. So this is very, very serious stuff. And in my kind of role playing as a small rabbi, Jewish teacher, spend more time in the Jewish community than in the Christian community, believe it or not. It hurts my heart tremendously to see this small nation, 13 people, under duress worldwide. Anti-Semitism. I spent a tremendous amount of time on college campuses, Jew hatred all over the place. And the different countries we go to, and the Islamic jihad that's taking place. That's my whole life, standing with Israel right now, helping defend Israel as a state.
I can agree on that.
Yeah, it was good.
You know, it's New York City. You go to Jerusalem.
I'm sending you.
It's totally different. But it's a very unique. You are for those of you Jewish in here, a very unique group of people. And again, I could argue the philosophical arguments all day long. I've done it with the top atheists in the world. That wasn't what I'm doing tonight. Tonight I'm sharing just some personal thoughts regarding the uniqueness of this nation of Israel. And I'm arguing historically as a lawyer would in a court. If I bring one witness up there, and that witness has corroborating testimony to a particular set of facts that exist today, I got to look at that person and go, okay, you got 10 things, 10 plagues at every Jewish house, and he said he was back there and he saw it. But when you got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and going through thousands of years, the same exact tradition that takes place in every single Jewish home, and you were cast around the world. Never has any nation ever been reconstituted after a diaspora. Never. You want a proof for God? 1948, May 14. You want another proof for God? May 15, 1948. 6 Arab countries attack Israel. Jets, tanks, airplanes, artillery, foreigners with pitchforks and BB guns. How the hell did Israel, 600,000 people, defeat 6 Arab nations in that initial war, the first war? Then we go into 67, the 67 war. Once again, a miracle of God, keeping the nation of Israel intact. Jerusalem, on June 7, 1967, for the first time in 2,000 years. Is this not some indication of some divine providence in the life of a group of 13 million people? For the first time in 2,000 years, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. June 7, 1967, Moshe Dayan saying, "We have the law." Listen to that radio. If the history of Moses and Joseph and Abraham don't flow through your veins, through your blood, when you hear that wall is now under Jewish control, then 1973, attack on the Sabbath, on Yom Kippur, attacked on Yom Kippur, almost dead, somehow miraculously defeat again to the Arab and Islamic enemies. The war of attrition. I interviewed General David Avery the other day, who oversaw the destruction of the Osiris reactor in Baghdad. on June 7, 1981. An amazing feat that took place there. Listen to this as we close here.
You're good, Trento.
This is,
Hey, when you believe this stuff, it's not too hard to communicate.
Very
Hear
convincing.
Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. You tell your kids this every night, you tell your kids this every morning. Blessed be the name of the glory of this kingdom forever and ever. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. This doesn't say you shall love some ethereal, drifting idea of love and generosity. This says you shall love the Lord God. And if you teach your kids that and you don't believe it, it's hypocritical, ladies and gentlemen. Love and teach these words I command you that shall be upon your heart. Shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk on the road, when you lie down, when you rise up. It goes on and on. And it concludes simply by saying, I am the Lord your God who brought you back to where we started. I laid out in the beginning the fact that Passover is celebrated by Jewish people worldwide. And the Shema says, I am the Lord God who, he didn't say who created everything, who keeps everything going. He says, let's go back in history. I brought you out of the land of Israel. You don't need much more proof than that to recognize your personal God who has your interest at stake and a phenomenal future for you. If you believe it.
Yay! You guys pretty good.
Man, that Trento's
Yeah,
all right.
rocking and rolling there. Well, somebody else, go to the New English Review. New English Review. They just posted a picture of Geert Wilders speaking to a small group at the United States Congress. Right now it's taking place. I see Louis Gohmert in the picture. So that is a perfect transition to the second part of our show at 37 minutes after the hour. April 29th, Wednesday. Tom Trento, your host. We got flying the airplane, Damon and Mike. Let's see. Mark is he sleeping back there on the floor somewhere? No, Mark is still on assignment. We'll catch up with him later on. But we want you to go take a look at that debate because as the walls close in on Israel, the degree of belief in a personal God is going to weigh very, very heavily in the fight in the days ahead. To the degree an individual can place their faith and trust in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel. It's to that degree that strength, vitality, and wisdom to do what's right will be appropriated by those individuals. And we pray that one of the individuals that appropriates the strength of God, though, he from research that's been done on Mr. Wilders, I think he was raised as a Roman Catholic, kind of blew it off. I believe he's an agnostic right now. He's not a very religious person, at least up until a year or so ago. And I don't think there's been any religious conversion. So he comes to the critique of Islam, not from a religious perspective, but from a political perspective, because he's a politician. He's been in the Dutch Parliament, it's a parliamentary system. The Netherlands used to be called Holland, but the official name is Netherlands. They're the Dutch people. They sold us Manhattan, didn't they? I think for a couple of bucks or something. They helped us with finding of the United States of America. So we have a long history with the Dutch. And ironically, the United States and Western special operators work with many of the Dutch special operators in the counter-jihad, the war on global jihad. And many of the folks who fought at that level have become part of the security detail for Geert Wilders, and I've had opportunity in the past to work with those guys in putting events together for Geert. He is here now in the United States. He's in the halls of Congress as we speak, and we may even have a picture right there. What's that say, Damon, if you can show our folks?
Geert Wilders' speech, Washington, D.C. We are all in the same boat. And this is from today.
Right now, a little earlier today, He's in a series of events at the United States. Did the Muslims succeed in banning Geert Wilders by any chance?
Let's see. If he was allowed into the country, I would venture to say that the Democrats did not succeed in wanting to ban the Islamophobic lawmaker.
Now, here's what I don't understand. I don't give a whole lot of credence to the intelligence of Keith Ellison or Andre Carson, though Andre Carson had a pretty stellar career as a law enforcement officer, believe it or not, and then seems to have gone off into the Islamic world of collaboration with terrorists, this individual right here.
Him?
Yeah, he's
I know
mobbed
very
up.
well. We know him very well.
Imam Abdullah.
Yes,
welcome to the
Tom, how are
studio.
you? I missed you so much. It seems like I've not seen you in over a week.
I heard a rumor that you and Andre may know each other and kind of work together. Is there any truth to that?
There is a little bit of truth to this, yes.
All right, well, and I also heard that there may be some video of you going into Andre Carson's office at the United States Capitol. Any truth to that?
There might be some truth of this, yes.
I think our viewers would like to see it. Our listeners would love to hear it at 41 minutes after the hour in WSBR Radio, 1470 on the dial, and iHeartRadio. And could they possibly see you in action on Capitol Hill?
Yes,
going
in
into-
fact, Tom, I must have walked by you in the hall many times. We were there on the same day, apparently, and I did not
Let's
see you.
take a look-see. Here we go. We're introducing the good guys exposing the bad guys, and that is done just like this. Hi, Tom Trento, Director of the United West, with a national security alert focusing in on Indiana Congressman Andre Carson. Just a casual investigation of his background shows complete mobbed-up involvement, extensive involvement with a terrorist organization, CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations.
Oh, Nihad.
Recently, the United Arab Emirates declared CARE as a terrorist group on the level with the Islamic State, Boko Haram, and Al-Shabaab. Well, over against this background, and recognizing that House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi appointed Congressman Andre Carson to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, we decided, the United West, to go to Muslim Capital Day
Muslim
on
Brotherhood
April
Capital
13th and confront Muslim Brotherhood leaders and hand out literature to the congressional members in an effort to expose people like Congressman Andre Carson. You will be amazed at who we ran into in the halls of Congress. Take a look.
Good afternoon. This is Imam Abdullah.
Imam, it's you.
Yes, it is
Rainbow
I.
Building in
One of your
Washington,
cameramen,
DC,
I think,
where
saw me, but
many
not
of the
you.
House of Representatives have their offices, and we were passing out a book called Explanatory Memorandum from the archives of the Muslim Brotherhood in America, and we're passing this out to all of the House members, and here we are at my most favorite of all Congress people, Representative Andre Carson of the great state of Indiana, and we're just going to hand off the explanatory memorandum. Not that he is not very familiar with this item because he's been working for a long time. Yes, thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, or Congressman Carson. Is good?
Absolutely.
Yes, and what this is, it is called an explanatory memorandum for the Muslim Brotherhood
That's
in
his
America.
office,
I'm sure
right?
he's very
Andre
familiar
This is
with these
Congressman
things.
Carson's
He's been
office.
helping us for
Just
years.
slide in and out of
And
that
I would
office.
just like
That's
to
amazing.
hand this off, and please make sure he gets. Yes.
Absolutely. I will.
Oh, very good. Assalamu alaikum, young lady.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow,
Bye.
impressed.
And so we have just passed out my last book, luckily to Representative Andre Carson. I have no more books. We've hit all of the offices in the building, and now it is time to go pray.
Well done, Imam Abdullah.
Thank you very much, Tom. I
I
get
am
very nasty
impressed.
letter, though. I get
am-
wrong reaction.
I am impressed with your access to the halls of Congress, particularly for Muslim Brotherhood collaborator, Congressman Andre Carson. Now, I'm going to read the letter right now that was sent on April 23rd, 6 days ago now. Today's the 29th. And we exposed Andre Carson. Center for Security Policy did. In fact, we document the dossier on Carson for all the world to see. It isn't like he got a couple of bucks from CARE, or he was a guest at one of the tables at one of their events. Time after time after time after time, knowing that they are involved heavily in a criminal case, in fact, have been found as co-conspirators of funding the Hamas, CARE has, and they haven't been indicted yet. They're unindicted, but there's sufficient evidence to see that they are involved with funding terrorism, at least by this Department of Justice. This congressman still goes to their events, speaks for them, represents them. What do you need, folks, to know that this guy is bad? He's bad for America. Well, just take a look at this letter, and you see how the civilizational jihad that we all talk about gets implemented on a political basis in Washington, D.C. The letter is to Secretary Kerry and Secretary Johnson of the DHS. We, Carson and Ellison from Minneapolis, Minnesota, we write to raise our deep concern regarding the visit of Mr. Geert Wilders, a Dutch lawmaker known for his perpetuating Islamophobia.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so you perpetuate a fear of Islam. Is that
Yes.
against the law somewhere?
It is, well, yes, in Muslim lands
In
it
the
is very
Muslim
much
land.
so.
So we'll grant, for the sake of the conversation, that he perpetuates Islamophobia. Ought that keep him from coming into the United States of America?
Yes.
All of us? Yes, it should. Okay. Mr. Wilders is scheduled to have a series of meetings in Washington next week, this week, the first one you just saw. We respectfully request that the U.S. government, to Muslims, requesting that the world's only superpower, founded on the Judeo-Christian worldview, with the articulation of the Constitution, the Declaration, the Federalist Papers, declaring religious freedom for all people, declaring free speech as the First Amendment. These guys say, our request is the United States government deny Mr. Wilders' entry due to his participating in inciting anti-Muslim aggression and violence. What is that all about?
It is saying that his mere presence and the words from his infidel mouth create an uncomfortable environment for the Muslim Ummah.
That's exactly the situation, folks. And on a very popular level, this letter is a graphic illustration of the philosophical, the theological, the geopolitical doctrines that we teach about Islam. That it removes personal responsibility from the individual. Excellent analogy. Because men are enticed by seductive women,
Yes,
women then have to be what?
covered.
Okay, so the onus isn't on a man to control his personal behavior or his sexual consideration.
Of course not.
The onus is on the perpetrator of the crime, the individual, doing nothing, because Muslim men are supreme over others, in particular women. Put a bag over the lady. That's
Yes.
Islam.
Yes.
When it comes to perpetuating, inciting violence, the mere presence of Geert Wilders, because he critiques Islam, causes Muslims to get very, very upset because they can't deal intellectually or politically with his various First Amendment, here in the United States, First Amendment right to speak. So what happens?
No soup for you.
No free speech for Wilders. This letter should be written by Ellison and Carson to American Muslims. These are not Iraqi Muslims. These are not Sudan Muslims. These are not Algerian Muslims. These are not French Muslims. These are not even English Muslims. These are U.S. First Amendment Muslims. They should be writing to every single friggin' Muslim in the United States of America who has any vitriol, hatred, or evil intent to say to our Muslim brothers and sisters in America, a person whom we don't like, Geert Wilders, is coming to America. We expect you to be on your best behavior. We're putting the onus not on Wilders, who's a hateful Islamophobe. This is what the letter should say from Muslims. We're putting the onus on individual control of your behavior. Show Islam as a true religion of peace. Give Mr. Wilders a rosebud. Welcome, pray for him, talk to him. That's what this letter should say. It's not what the letter says. It says keep the damn guy out of the country because he's going to upset Muslims. And in our world, you see where Carson and Ellison live? They don't live in the United States of America. They live in the middle of the Ummah. They live in the middle of Syria in their thinking, in their being, in their desires. That's where they live. Continuing with a letter they wrote to the head of the Department of State, the head of the Department of Homeland Security. They said, we have a law on the books, International Religious Freedom Act, which allows the Department of State to deny entry to a foreign leader who is responsible for severe violations of religious freedom. And yes, there is a law. It's been used once 10 or 15 years ago to keep a person who actually caused problems out of the country. They're pulling up this crusty law that has nothing to do with Geert Wilders or the situation today. And they're taking a flyer on, maybe our two friends, Jay Johnson and John Kerry, will keep Wilders out.
You never know with those two.
You never know. So they took a flyer. In 2010-11, the letter continues, Wilders was formally charged with inciting hatred and discrimination by the Dutch government. Is that true?
Yes. Rightfully so.
He was charged. And what was the outcome of that?
Not guilty.
He was found in a kangaroo court, no less, not guilty of inciting anything.
The verdict was fixed.
And the joke is, Europe doesn't have a First Amendment, and the Netherlands does not have a First Amendment. So Wilders, that'd be a good name. Geert Wilders was found innocent, not on the high bar, the high standard of the U.S. First Amendment. He was found innocent on the low bar of incitement to violence and all that. He was found innocent in Dutch law, which really indicates the fact that there was no substance to the charges.
The whole court is Islamophobic.
Total kangaroo court stuff. So on page 2 of this interesting article, they go on to say, Ellison and
Carson.
They go on to say right here on page 2, they go on to say, Mr. Wilders' political agenda is centered on the principle that Christian culture is superior to other cultures. Okay? Now that's a misstatement because I've heard him say it many, many times. He says the Judeo-Christian culture, which comprises Western civilization, along with secularism, he's a total secularist, he isn't a religious person, along with Greek thought and Roman thought, these principles comprise our culture, and he concludes Western civilization is better than the Islamic culture. Woo! That's a real
Islamophobe.
That's a real jump off into space on facts. The 2004 United Nations analytical study of Islam, Arab Islam, showed that Arab Islam by the United Nations is in deplorable shape. There's no infrastructure for academic advancement. There's no infrastructure for advancement in the arts or in sciences. First day back, straining my throat here.
Flying germ tube.
Yeah, I'm running out of water, but that's okay. I got what do I got here, folks?
Oh, you got site to Israel and Hershey's for Heroes Cup. Compliments of Michael Gano.
Thanks, Michael Gano, for that. We'll be seeing you later this week.
Oi, he's a mensch.
He, Geert Wilders, justifies his desire to ban the Quran and Islam from the Netherlands with depraved comments like, Islam is not a religion, it's an ideology, the ideology of a retarded culture. We should not be importing this hate speech. If you go on to look at those quotes and put them in context, the way they're representing it isn't the way it was said in context, though he is a critic of Islam, saying that it does have serious problems, as the UN has also identified. So they take this stuff out of context.
The UN is a problem.
Yeah, of course, but they conclude even worse so than Wilders does on a lot of this. But listen how they go in their letter, the next to concluding paragraph. These are the two congressmen, Muslim congressmen, 54 minutes after the hour. Tom Trento, enemies of the state. You're listening on WSBR radio, 1470 on
740.
your dial. 740 on your dial. I listen to the radio every morning, 1470. I look for 1470. Little shout out to Craig, Brian Craig and Steve Kane. Great guys, on early, 1470. Same company, two different parts.
Sister station. We're not traitors.
WHFS 1010 in Tampa Bay.
Hello, terrorist Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk to those guys anymore. They're just... In the U.S., freedom of speech is a bedrock principle that distinguishes free societies from ones living under oppressive regime. Who's saying that? That's these guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe they've found religion here. Freedom of speech, however, this is it, folks. Whenever you see an however, however, is not absolute. True. You're not supposed to yell, what is it?
Fire in a crowded movie theater.
Popcorn in a crowded popcorn house, I think it is. It is limited by the legal and moral understanding that speech that causes the incitement of violence or prejudicial action against protective groups is wrong. All right, now these guys I don't think are lawyers, but even a first-year Columbia attorney or Harvard attorney, first-year student, will realize that what they're trying to say there is completely wrong, not factual, and that there's a three-part test to inciting riot. It's so difficult to incitement to violence to pass the bar in the U.S. 1958
Listen,
case.
if Ferguson, Missouri, have burned this bee down, if that's not inciting and then they burn the city down, I don't think Geert Wilders is inciting violence, being he's not telling anyone to do anything.
And I wonder where Ellison, who's a black American, and Carson, black American, where they stood on, burn this bitch down, basically, those statements as free speech.
Yeah.
And we all knew they were. That was the closest to inciting violence that
I've ever
have
seen
Yeah.
without being charged.
Without
Continuing.
being charged. As Mr. Wilders continues his pursuit of political power, and granting him entry will embolden him to engage in further incitement of violence and discrimination against Muslims. Well, incitement of violence is a legal term. We know that doesn't apply. Discrimination against Muslims. He obviously doesn't discriminate in his role as a parliamentarian in Europe, in the Netherlands, because there's laws against that. But he is calling for the banning of criminal Muslims to come in. He is calling for the immigration issues to be cut back. He's calling for principles to save his nation because his nation is being overrun by Islamic jihadis, basically. Anti-Semitism, they have to bring Jews into this.
Of course. If it's not Jews, then it's going to be Hispanics.
Anti-Semitism, which I would say is perpetrated against Jews by what religion of peace?
The Muslims.
Yeah. And Islamophobia are sweeping through Europe. Mr. Wilders is among the hateful leaders responsible for perpetuating prejudice. I think he's been to Israel 20 or 30 times. He lived there in his early days. He's a dear friend of Israel, so to include anti-Semitism...
That is more Islamophobia.
It's comical. These guys are comedians. Mr. Wilders is among hateful leaders responsible. Allowing him to enter the United States will cause harm to our country and values and religious freedoms in that respect. Okay, look, this thing got no play. These guys are nitwits, Carson and Andre Carson and Keith Ellison. And I think the punishment for them, for this absurd, stupid, on its face, nonsensical, comical letter that did nothing. Wilders is in America. He's going to be in the Congress. He's going to be in Texas. We're going to be there. We'll interview him, hopefully. I think the punishment for those guys, who wants to hear the punishment for Congressman Ellison, Congressman Carson, my punishment here at the United West as enemies of the state, and if they hold to this position, they are enemies of the United States Constitution. I think the punishment ought to be another visit by Imam Abdullah.
Ooh, I would love to go see them again.
Like to do that?
I was say make them go to the Muhammad cartoon drawing contest.
No. They'd laugh probably. But to go and sit down in an interview with Imam Abdullah?
I would be
think-
more than happy to. Those are my
Okay.
two most favorite congressmen in all of your Congress.
We will set that up here at Enemies of the State, and we thank you all for watching every single day. Our show is growing by leaps and bounds. We thank you, the radio listening audience, whatever anyone can do to help contribute, to donate. We appreciate that. Tomorrow we have Joel Gilbert. He'll be on live, part 2 of his interview with Malik Obama. Remember last week Malik said, my brother's a con man? Guess what he says about his brother tomorrow on our show.
Ooh.
Stay tuned.
Don't touch the stream. Don't touch the stream.
All right, guys, can I...
Fade to black. Oh.
Am I off? Am I off?
Yep. Hold on, not really.
Not really. I gotta make a.
Not really.
I'm answering
Stop.
a call here.
Stop talking. You're hit fade to black.
Hang on.